Hey, what's going on, everybody? JJ Starwind is here. So, this recording, I'm just going to give my thoughts on the latest Tekken 8 game, mainly the story, per se. It's interesting because, it seems like, just before I dive into that, it seems like all the hype that was in Mortal Kombat 1 has pretty much been evaporated. Like, I had to make note of this because I have been listening to a couple of channels that were Mortal Kombat themed channels, and they have not been happy about the latest developments and outcomes of Mortal Kombat 1. And because of that, even they have no choice but to talk about how much better the Tekken community has been when it came to the release of Tekken 8 rather than MK1. Like, it's that crazy, you know. So man, I feel for those guys, because at the time when MK1 came out, they were so hyped for that game, and they were so happy to get another product in the Mortal Kombat universe. But then to see that kind of died down because of mainly because of online issues. It was mainly online gameplay that they had a problem with, and then some of me complained about the gameplay itself. But man, like, but then they compared that with Tekken 8 and seeing how much, I ain't gonna say improved, but how much more faster and more fluid the gameplay is, and they're seeing how much more the developers are in tune with the fan base of Tekken. Like, yeah, it's almost like night and day, really. But getting on topic, the Tekken 8 story, I played the main story, and then I'm not done with the character episodes just yet. I kind of got started. I will say it was a very good story. It was clearly better than Tekken 7's story by a long shot. No guest character involvement, like from outside the Tekken lore, kind of like how we saw in Tekken 7 when they introduced Akuma, which really threw me for a loop. But somehow they made it work. Namco somehow made it work, you know. It was quite fascinating in what they did. So, but with Tekken 8, it was a very, very good story. I liked how they basically tested Jin's mettle when it came to his power and his desire, because that was kind of like one of the main themes in that story, desire, and that basically made or break the fighter. You know, that was kind of like the major difference between Kazuya and Jin. Kazuya was totally acting out his desire to be the man, the ruler of the entire world, using his ability of the Devil Gene, whereas Jin was kind of fighting against it. He was trying to fight against himself. Not only that, he was trying to do it by himself too, not realizing that he wasn't alone in the battle. He had people that cared about him, and because of that care, it finally forced him to think not just about himself, but for everybody else too. Even though at one point in time, you know, thanks to Namco, Jin was at one point like a antagonist. He was a bad person, trying to get rid of the Devil Gene, doing what he had to do under the Zabatsu, you know, by finding the first devil, the devil user in Azazel, and things of that nature, trying whatever it took to kind of lure that being out and fight him in order to get rid of the Devil Gene itself. So at the time, he kind of had to do bad things just to make that happen, up until that didn't work, sadly. And so Jin was still trying to fight against himself to try to do whatever it took to get rid of not just the Mishima bloodline, but also the Devil Gene itself. But overall, I did like the theme of those two going at it, Jin and Kazuya, trying to solve the Mishima bloodline supremacy once and for all. But there was some things in the story mode that I kind of wish we could have had, even though I think they did a good job mixing it up. Like, at one point in the campaign, a little spoiler alert, like, you had the tournament part where you was actually like in the tournament, because that's kind of how the game is centered around. It's centered around a fighting tournament. You got that aspect of the game, which was dope. And then you had a part of the game where you actually fought, like, it was almost like Tekken Force. I don't know if people remember Tekken 3, for those that are old enough to remember. Like, you had Tekken Force, that was like a side game, and you picked whatever character you wanted, and you fought against Tekken Force soldiers. Well, in this case, you fought against the G Corporation. They're fighters. So you had that part in the story mode. That was awesome. And it was 3D. Like the Tekken 3, it was 2D. But in this one, it was 3D. You could move around in a 360. So that was kind of sick right there. And it was only like a handful of people that you could have had on there. I think they did it like, was it 7 characters or 8? I lost count in the number of characters that you could use in that particular chapter. And then you had some rival fights in there too in that same chapter. And spoiler alert, but unfortunately you don't get to fight Yoshimitsu and Brian. You fight them in the tournament, but you didn't see it again in the other chapter. That might have been why we didn't get to play them a second time, even though we actually fought them in the tournament part of the chapter in that story. I thought that was kind of unusual, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, speaking of Yoshimitsu, you barely saw him in the story. Barely. That was a head scratcher too. I know he's not really part of that Mishima bloodline, feud or whatever, but it was kind of weird that you didn't really get any input out of Yoshimitsu whatsoever. We never got to play as Safina. Yeah, like that was another part of the story that I kind of wanted to play as her, really, because like you got to play all the other females. If I'm not mistaken, you got to play as them, but you didn't get a chance to play Safina, and that was a little disappointing there too. Like, dang, we're not gonna play all the females on there. Well, now that I think about it, we didn't play Jun Kazama either. You didn't really get to play as her either. So that's another lady that we could have got to play but never did. And who else? There was a part in the story where I think, oddly enough, Lily offered Jin a chance to ride on the plane after he lost his ability to transform, because that's what else that happened in the story. A little spoiler: he's not able to transform into his power for a time because he was trying to fight against it so badly. But she offered him a plane ride in order to get back to his home island in Japan. And so it's her on the plane, her private jet. Asuka is with her, Ling Xiaoyu, Panda, Elisa, and Jin. They're all on the plane together. And they were talking about the Kazama bloodline. And see, I think this was like a missed opportunity. And I even know some people in the chat, when I look back on some YouTube channels, they mentioned this, like, okay, you had a chance for Asuka to learn more about her family tree, Asuka Kazama. Alright, and then there's Jin right there, the center of it all. He's there too. At that point, she would have definitely realized that, oh, okay, so Jun Kazama is my aunt, and Jin's my cousin. Let me learn more about this. But they barely said anything to each other. Like, they didn't say much of anything at all. So that was a big time miss in my opinion. Like, they could have definitely expounded on that, to me, in order to, I guess, clean up any kind of animosity that Asuka had against Jin, or any kind of indifference Jin had against Asuka, because he found out that he's not the only Kazama living and stuff like that. Like, there's another Kazama, not just him, that kind of thing. And even some of the other girls, like Elisa, Lily, and Xiaoyu, and Panda, like they all could have learned about the Kazama bloodline, especially through the dialogue if they had it with Asuka and Jin. But it's like a missed opportunity. And then still, like, if Asuka was that much more curious, she could have went with Jin and Ling Xiaoyu to the island to learn more about the Kazama family. So that could have helped kind of escape her, endless rivalry with Lily. Hell, even in that story, they could have kind of made up and been like friends instead of just rivals. Because it seemed like, I guess Namco's just super bent on having them just fight and argue, feud all the time, Lily and Asuka. I just thought that was kind of like, okay, they're kind of milking it up too much. I think if you had Asuka bond a little bit more with Jin, as far as family ties is concerned, that could have definitely opened up her character a lot more, but that was a missed opportunity. Things like that. But yeah, man, other than that, man, like, overall the story is good. Oh yeah, let me talk about some of the new characters. So I'll start with Victor. So Victor, he had a good role in the story, acting as the head of the ninja clan, so to speak. Well, even though he's not technically a ninja. So he's part of the Union of Nations. It's kind of like a playoff of the United Nations, things of that nature. So you get to play as him a little bit, and I ain't gonna say he's super tricky to use, but he does have some pretty cool moves. I ain't gonna lie. He has a wide variety of weapons, even a pistol. So you know, I think along with Nina Williams, he's one of those characters that has a pistol. And yeah, basically, he's kind of there to kind of help alongside Lars to try to assist Jin Kazama in the fight against the G Corporation and Kazuya. That's kind of what Victor is, like, pretty much a support character. Even though Leroy Smith is not exactly new, he was a good part of the story too, because it was thanks to him that kind of made Jin Kazama open his eyes about his problem not gaining power of the devil. So that was a very important fight that they had in the tournament part of the story. So big ups to Leroy for, you know, helping out Jin in that regard. And Azucena, probably she's just there as comic relief, basically. You know, this is a lady that just likes to dance around and promote her coffee business. So enough said about that. She had a very weird dialogue with Leo in one of the chapters. I think it was the one with the G Corporation battle against the UN, as well as Lars's military group. Yeah, that was a little off. But yeah, she was just there as comic relief, basically. And then there was Reina. I forgot to talk about her. I did like the fact that, even though I think it's clear that Namco wants to use her in the next game as like a main antagonist, so to speak, or one of the antagonists for the next game, since they already revealed who she really is. And I'm not going to say it unless you guys play the game. So Reina, because of her involvement in the tournament, it seems like she's going to play a very big part in the story. And I liked how in the story she didn't have too much of a spotlight, but when she did have camera time, when, you know, it was her time to speak and stuff like that, she made her presence very well known, and it was very reminiscent of a famous character that I won't say, but you kind of get the idea if you've already played the game and stuff. So that's pretty much all I'm gonna have to elaborate on Reina. But yeah, she did her thing in the story for sure. Most definitely. And it was also shocking for her to kind of go head to head against Kazuya like she did as well in that one fight. So yeah, definitely a very strong character. No doubt about it. But overall, I think the Tekken 8 story, they definitely did a much more improved job compared to Tekken 7. And then they left some room to play with for speculation of the next game. Even though the feud between Kazuya and Jin is supposed to be over. Well, it's supposed to be. But it definitely leaves a lot into interpretation what the next series is going to bring and where the series can go from here. So yeah, you guys tell me what you think about the story if you played it already. How did you like it, or what you disliked about it? I could elaborate on the character episodes next, because some of the ones I played were like out of this world. Like, really? Like, it's like they really went for shock value in some of those character episodes. Like, it's like, wow, really? They did that to this person? But I'm gonna leave that up for another video or audio. But anyway, this is JJ Starwind. That's pretty much all I got. I'll see you all later.